Hey guys, this week for Weapons Wednesday, we're looking at some of our more affordable knives that are perfect for daily use. But before we begin, if you could just like this video and subscribe to our channel, that would be awesome. So this week we're going to do something very different than we've done in a long time. Amanda and I were talking about what we should do for the Weapons Wednesday this week, and we thought about the fact that we have so many great knives that we've never shown off on video before. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this shotgun style. Amanda's just holding my iPhone, and we're going to very quickly go through 15 different knives that are all very affordable. They're all around the $20 range or under that. And then we're just going to test them out, show them off a little bit. It's just going to be a very quick video. All right, so let's start with the very first knife. All right, our first knife is called the Dark Dragon Stiletto. So first off, look at that casing. That handle looks just awesome. I love the dragon design on it. So we can tell that this is kind of a stone-washed stainless steel handle. And then let's look at the blade on this thing. Oh wow, look at that. So this is definitely a spear point style blade. We can see that it's got this etched design, and the metal is actually a 3CR13 stainless steel blade, which isn't my favorite steel, but these are all very affordable knives. We carry knives at all price points on KarateMart.com. Today we're just looking at the inexpensive knives. So it is a stainless steel, and the nice thing about that is corrosion resistant, so I actually like that a lot about it. The blade itself is very sharp. The point is very sharp. The open length is approximately 8 5/8 inches. The length closed is approximately 4 7/8 inches, and the blade length is approximately 3 5/8 inches. And the knife weight is about 5.2 ounces. So that's actually fairly comfortable in my hand. I actually like that a lot. Let's take a look at how good this thing is for cutting. Okay, the blade is kind of sharp. It's not overly sharp. I'd actually probably use a knife sharpener and sharpen it up a little bit more. But look at that. Look how easily that just cut through the fabric. Super easy. So that's kind of nice. And then, yeah, I mean, the tip is definitely sharp. Seems to hold in there pretty nicely. No damage to the tip from doing that. So that's nice to see. And then, yeah, it can chop pretty decent. And then from doing that, the blade didn't get dulled at all. So that's actually pretty nice. I definitely, if you're a knife person, it's definitely a good idea to invest in a knife sharpener. I personally use a belt sander, but a knife sharpener for quick sharpening is always a good thing to have. So I don't think there's anything else to say about this. I actually think it's a pretty cool knife for an inexpensive knife. We also have this little pocket clip on there, which is pretty nice. And that's a pretty heavy duty pocket clip too. So actually kind of like that. But let's go ahead and put this one away and go on to our next one. All right, so our next one is called the Dark Ranger Field Knife. So let's take a look at that. All right, so yeah, that's kind of cool. I mean, it fits comfortably in my hand. First thing I notice is this is a 3CR13 stainless steel blade again. So again, corrosion resistant, not my favorite steel in the world, but it is an inexpensive knife. We've got jimping up here, which is actually really comfortable. I actually like that a lot. I have good control of this knife. I also like the fact that it's kind of ergonomically built in the handle, so that fits nicely in my fingers. The blade is roughly 2 3/4 inches. So that's kind of a shorter blade, but it's actually really sharp. It's actually a really sharp blade. I like the fact that it's also got the black finish to it, so that's gonna help with some of the corrosion and rusting as well. We've got this lanyard hole in the pommel that has this extra paracord in there, which is really nice. Like, I like the fact that they added this much paracord to it, because that, if we are in a survival situation, that's actually nice. We can take that off. We can use that for so many different survival tasks. So while it looks a little bit awkward on this knife, I think it's actually a really good addition to it. So for a survival purpose knife, this is pretty awesome. But let's go ahead and test it out just a little bit. All right, so first off, let's try chopping with it. I have good control of it, so I like that a lot. So from a chopping aspect, that chops decent, and the blade still looks like it's in really good shape. It didn't get dulled at all, so that's kind of nice. Let's try cutting with it. Yeah, so I just barely hit the fabric there, and it cut through it just fine. And then let's just try stabbing. Yeah, so it stabs pretty nicely. Let's check that point. Yeah, the tip is still sharp. But 3CR13 is, again, not my favorite steel. I would definitely invest in a knife sharpener if you're gonna get some knives. Let's see, it also has a pack-of-wood handle here, which I actually really like the look of that. I think that's, I like the contrast of the black metal that's clearly full tang into the pack-of-wood handle. So I think that's pretty neat. Have good control of this knife. I actually like it. Let's see if there's anything else I need to mention about it. Oh yeah, this is kind of interesting. So this has a really thick, heavy-duty nylon case, and then on the back it's got this little pocket back here. And inside, we've got this little Allen wrench that's got a star screw on it. So if we wanted to, you could undo the handle there, take off the pack of wood, clean it off really nicely, and then put it back on. So that's kind of an interesting little addition to this knife. I'm not sure that it's necessary, but it's kind of cool. You don't see that very often. I'm actually kind of curious how this feels in reverse grip. Fairly comfortable. I actually like it because up here I have good placement for my thumb, so I have pretty good control of this knife in reverse grip and in forward grip, so pretty awesome. Oh, the knife weighs about 4.2 ounces, so that's a good weight for the knife, and that's really all there is to say about it. So yeah, let's go ahead and put that away and move on to our next one. All right, so our next knife is the Dark Rainbow Pocket Knife. So let's look at that. You know, it's funny, we don't often call knives rainbow because they just don't sell very well when we state the word rainbow. We usually say titanium finish because this clearly has that titanium finish on it, which is so popular. I absolutely love that, how it shines. It's really neat. It looks like an oil slick pattern or something. I think that's pretty cool. Let's look at the blade on this thing. Okay, that's interesting. So that's one of those Nesmik blades that we don't see very often. I actually really like that style of blade. I like the grind on this thing. I think it's pretty nice. So if we look, we can tell that this is a 440 stainless steel for the blade and for the casing and the handle. And then we also have this, it looks like it's a composite polymer on here. So at first, when I first looked at this, I almost thought it was some sort of pack of wood, but that's clearly some sort of composite polymer. It actually feels really nice and comfortable. It's very smooth. I like the marbleized look of it. I think that's pretty cool. As far as comfort goes, that's really comfortable. It actually fits in my hand really nicely. It's a little bit small for my hand, but I actually like that because that's gonna fit in my pocket really nicely. We also have this heavy duty pocket clip, and that thing is very heavy duty. I mean, this whole knife is extremely heavy duty. It weighs approximately 8 ounces. So for a pocket knife, that's pretty heavy. Let's see, we also have these little lanyard holes on the end down here. So we could add, you know, some paracord to it or a wrist strap if we wanted to, or even hook it to a keychain or something. The thumb stud is on there too, so if we wanted to open it via the thumb stud, we could definitely do that. So yeah, overall, I mean, this is pretty nice. The liner lock looks really heavy duty in there too, so I like the liner lock. Yeah, overall, this is pretty nice. Let's try cutting with it a little bit. First, yeah, the blade's definitely sharp. Nesmik blade is pretty good for cutting. Yeah, so we can see that just cut through right there. It's not the best style of blade for stabbing though. This could be good, pretty decent for chopping. We generally don't see a lot of Nesmik blades. They're just a little bit different design. Some people really like them though. They work pretty well for like a field knife type of thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this away. I don't think there's anything else to say about it, but let's put this away and move on to our next one. All right, so our next knife is called the Jungle Ranger Karambit. So let's just look at that. So first off, when I look at this knife, the most obvious thing to me is that, you know, traditionally when you see a karambit, you're kind of used to the signature ring at the end on the pommel. This one doesn't have this. This still has a Talon style blade on there, which is cool. So it's got that karambit style curved blade, which I like. But instead of the ring on the pommel, you can see that we actually have this kind of, the blade goes through full tang and then it ends out here and it turns into kind of like jimping up top that you can hold on to. So I actually have really good control of that because of this. So this part up here, it gives me good control. You could actually strike with that. You could also use that as an icebreaker. Pretty decent. And I think the thing I like the most about this knife is if we look at the handle, this is some sort of rubberized green ABS. and it's got that ergonomic grip that's really, really comfortable in my hand. And then we can see we've got thumb grooves back here, and this is that kind of rubberized handle that just feels so comfortable. So I actually like that a lot. The blade is fairly sharp. The tip is definitely sharp. Let's see. So let's try some different grips. So clearly in reverse grip, that's very comfortable. I actually like that a lot. In forward grip, super comfortable. So that can be used in both grips. I actually really like that. The blade length is approximately 4 3/8 inches. The total length is approximately 8 5/8 inches. And the weight is about 3.8 ounces. So that's a very light karambit, especially for a fixed blade like that. That's pretty nice. Let's go ahead and slice something with this. All right, so let's first start by testing how sharp this is. Oh geez, yeah, see that's one of the things I just love about that style of blade on a karambit is they just slice so nicely. They're not great for stabbing. I mean, it's got a sharp tip, so that definitely will hold, but this is definitely more of a slicing type blade. Let's see how well it chops. All right, so it's okay for chopping, but the nice thing is the blade didn't dull at all, the tip didn't dull at all, which I was kind of expecting from stabbing a little bit on it. We also have this false edge back here, which I love karambits that are sharpened on both sides. So if I were to buy this, I probably would sharpen up that false edge just so I have it on both sides. So overall, for a very inexpensive karambit, I actually like this. The handle is probably my favorite part of it. I like that black finish on the 3CR13 stainless steel, and yeah, I mean it's like for an inexpensive karambit, I actually like this. I think it's pretty cool. It also comes with this looks like a thermoplastic sheath with a belt clip on it. Let's see how nicely that fits in there. Oh yeah, that's nice and secure in there. I actually like that. And then we can see that it's got this venting on the sheath, so we could actually add that to a boot if we wanted to and make it into a boot knife or something. So yeah, very cool knife. I actually like that a lot for how inexpensive it is. But let's put that away, move on to our next one. All right, so our next knife is the Stealth Push Dagger. Okay, so if we look at this, first off, we can see that it's got this nylon sheath with a belt loop on it. I love push daggers. I think they're so cool. I just like the design of them. I think they're neat. So let's go ahead and take this out. Okay, yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, so first off, this looks like it's got another 3CR13 stainless steel blade. Definitely sharp, super sharp. The tip is super sharp. It's fairly thin. So, I mean, I like it. I wish it was a little bit thicker. I also like the fact that it's got the venting in the blade too, and it's got kind of like this fuller down here, so that takes off a little bit of weight. It looks like it is full tang, goes into the handle, but it's got this really interesting grip to it. It looks like it is an injection molded ABS handle. So that's actually really comfortable. Like, I like the design of that handle. I like how comfortable it is. I feel like I have good control of this knife. I'm curious how well it's gonna stand up to some striking though, because that is pretty thin metal. If you were gonna buy this, I would definitely have a knife sharpener, available to you. But let's test it out just a little bit, see how well it works. It's not gonna probably be great for slicing. Yeah, I mean, it's not great for that. These are known more for striking, so yeah, I mean, that definitely stabs pretty well. I like how much momentum I can get into this in this kind of knife. I mean, I can really just stab in there. So I actually like that a lot. I think it's pretty cool. I like this style of knife a lot. And yeah, the blade, if we look at it, the tip didn't get dulled at all. That still is pretty sharp. And you can see that this is very dense wood on this pellet. I didn't just grab some cheap pellet. This is actually very dense, because look how hard I'm actually striking this thing. So I'm striking that as hard as I can, and it's barely going in with the tip. And I mean, that tip is still in perfect condition, didn't get damaged at all. So these are gonna hold up for you pretty nicely. I actually like them a lot. And let's see, the overall length is approximately 5 3/4 inches. The blade length is about 3 inches, and the weight is about 2.8 ounces. So very, very good weight on that. Very light, nice weight on it. I don't think there's anything else for me to say about it. So let's go ahead and put that away and move on to our next knife. All right, so our next knife is the Damascus trailing point pocket knife. Okay, so trailing point knives seem to have gained in popularity as of recently, so I actually kind of like the look of these. But first off, let's just look at the casing on this. That looks pretty cool, pretty nice. It looks like it is a 440 stainless steel blade with Damascus finish and a 440 stainless steel handle on that as well. And we can see that it's got this really nice pack of wood on there, which I really like that kind of fake Damascus finish mixing with that pack of wood handle. I think it gives it a really nice contrast, a really unique look. But let's go ahead and look at the blade on this thing. Yeah, see there's that trailing point blade that we're seeing so much of lately. That is not my favorite style of blade, personally. It just feels like there's not that much you can do with it. It kind of reminds me of a scimitar or something. But I mean, the look of it, if you're a knife collector or something, I think they're pretty cool. I think they look pretty cool. And I really like the general design of this knife in general. Like, I love that fake Damascus pattern. I think it looks really unique, really cool. The only problem with that is if you were to use a belt sander on a blade like this to actually sharpen it up, there's a good chance you could take off some of that Damascus pattern. But this is, again, a very inexpensive knife. So for an inexpensive knife, pretty awesome. The blade is sharp, the tip is sharp. Looks like it's got, look at the liner lock on this thing. So I actually like the design of that liner lock. It looks very heavy duty. That's gonna hold up for you very nicely. It's got a very heavy duty belt clip. I don't think there's anything else to really say about it. I mean, it's got a good spring assist to it. Blade length is approximately 3 1/4 inches. Folded length is approximately 4 3/4 inches. Unfolded length is approximately 8 inches, and the weight is about 6 ounces. So that's fairly heavy for a pocket knife. So yeah, let's just test how sharp this thing is. This kind of blade, again, is not great for this kind of thing. It still actually cut through pretty decently. I'm actually kind of surprised. And that's just hitting this edge right there. So the fact that it cut through that with that edge isn't bad. As a stabbing knife, these things aren't overly great. It's definitely sharp. But I do like trailing point. I think it's a unique knife. So I think if you're into collecting knives, I think it's always good to have a trailing point as well. So let's go ahead and put this one away and move on to our next one. All right, so our next knife is the tactical drop point knife. Okay, interesting. So first off, we can see that it's got this wide back clip on there. So I generally like the wide back clip. I think they're kind of cool. We've been seeing them a little bit more lately. What's nice about them is that they get into your pocket or sit into your clothing, and they keep the knife very secure, so it's not gonna come out on you. So I actually like that wide back clip. I like how it's kind of rounded for your hip. I think that's kind of cool. And then we can see that it's got a really nice thermoplastic sheath to it. So that's heavy duty. The knife's not falling out. That's in there nice and tight, form fitted to the blade. And first off, I noticed that ring on the pommel, which I love that. That's one of my favorite things about certain knives. I love that. So let's go ahead and open this up and see what it looks like. Okay, very cool, very cool. Okay, so we definitely have a drop point knife here. You can tell by the way that the blade is angled. That looks pretty cool. On top, we can see that it's got a false edge to it, so you could sharpen that up if you wanted to with a belt sander or something. The blade itself is definitely sharp. The tip's sharp. We can see that we've got some venting in this blade. It's kind of indented here, and then there's holes through it, so that's going to take a little bit of weight off the blade, and it's going to give it a nice aesthetic appeal, so I like that about it. This is, again, a 3CR13 stainless steel blade, so nice and corrosion resistant, and with that black finish, that's going to make it even more corrosion resistant, so I like that a lot. We can tell that it is full tang, goes all the way through the handle, and then this is a textured ABS handle, which is actually really comfortable. I actually like that a lot. You can see the texture on there, looks really nice. So for an inexpensive fixed blade knife, it's actually pretty cool. So one of the things I'm noticing on this also is the ring on the pommel is squared. So we don't see that very often, but I was playing with this. I actually like it. I think it's pretty cool because I've got really good control in reverse grip on this. I can hold it like this and I can really push against that to maintain good control in reverse grip. Now, if I go to extended grip, I've still got really good control because this finger is actually holding onto there very tightly. The back is actually holding onto there very tightly. I can do some good slashing with it, so I actually like that a lot. I think it's pretty cool. And then if we throw it into forward grip, It's comfortable. It's definitely comfortable. I like how my pinky fits into the pommel ring very nicely. One thing I wish this had is I wish it had a little bit of jimping up here for a little bit of extra control, but it does have this kind of ergonomic thumb area up here and ergonomic finger area on the handle itself. So I've got good control of this knife. I just would like to see some jimping up here. So if I bought this, I would just take a Dremel and I'd add some jimping of my own up here just to make it nice for me, because I'm pretty particular about my knives. So this is pretty awesome. The blade length is approximately 4 inches. The knife overall length is about 8 5/8 inches, and the knife weight is about 5.4 ounces. So that's a good weight on this. It's actually a really comfortable weight. 5.4 ounces, about perfect. The finger ring diameter is about 1 inch approximately. So that's a good diameter. I've got fairly large hands, fits me wonderfully. So unless you have enormous hands, that's gonna be about perfect. But let's try actually using this thing, see how it works. So in forward grip, I'm just gonna give this a little bit of a slash. Yeah, so that's slashed okay. I mean, there's so many slashes in this thing now. Let's try a nice area like this. Yeah, so we can see that just slashed up there pretty nicely. So the blade is definitely sharp. As far as a stabbing blade, oh yeah, that actually stabbed in further than any of the other knives so far. Again, this is a very dense piece of wood that's been kind of sitting out in the air, so it's very hardened. And let's see, let's try chopping with it just a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it chops pretty well, and the blade is still super sharp on there. It didn't damage the black finish. Black finish still looks perfect. The blade still looks perfect. So yeah, I like it. All right, let's go ahead and put this away and move on to our next one. All right, so our next knife is the pink Cheetah pocket knife. Okay, so look at this. This is interesting. It's not exactly my style of knife, but I think it's cool. I actually like the look of it. I like the uniqueness of it. So it looks like it is a 440 stainless steel blade. Oh wow, did you see that spring assist? That was really nice. That was a good spring assist. I actually like that a lot. So it is a 440 stainless steel blade with a black finish. Not my favorite steel, but it is very corrosion resistant, which is nice if you're using this as an outdoor knife. Most of the knives I'm showing off, we're talking about them in daily use. So we're thinking about them in the terms of like, you're at work, you wanna open some packages, you need to just cut random things throughout the day. That's the good use for these knives. So I actually think they're pretty cool in that respect, and these are very inexpensive knives. So it looks like this is an aluminum handle, but I like the pink Cheetah design. I like how metallic it is. I like the contrast with the black. And then look at the thumb stud too. We've got this little pink Cheetah thumb stud on there that's like a little gemstone. So I think that's kind of cool. I can see how some people would really like this. We can see that there's also jimping on the spine of the blade up here. So I actually have pretty good control of this. My hand's a little big for this knife though. I don't like my hand slipping off this knife. So if you've got really big hands, probably not the best knife for you. But for most people, I think it's gonna be pretty good. We can also see that it is ergonomically set up for your fingers. And because I've got such large hands, it doesn't fit me quite right. So I would suggest someone with a smaller hand, because look how my pinky kind of comes off of that. That's not good for me. I wouldn't want that. That doesn't give me enough control with the knife. But for a lot of people, this is going to be a great knife. So I actually like that. The blade itself is really sharp. That's a really sharp blade. The tip is extremely sharp on that. It's got a nice pocket clip in back. Yeah, that's actually a really good heavy duty pocket clip. The knife weight is approximately 3.2 ounces. So very light blade. I actually like that. I think it's pretty cool. We can see that the style of blade is some sort of modified drop point blade. So it gives a nice angle up here for stabbing. We could also, this will be great for slicing. So yeah, let's go ahead and test this out just a little bit. I think it's gonna be great for slicing. So let's find an area of the gi that hasn't been sliced too much. Oh yeah, so that just shot through just like nothing. Definitely a sharp blade. I think that's pretty cool. For stabbing, yeah, that actually went in really nicely. For chopping, I mean, so the problem is this is so small for my hand, it's not gonna be great for chopping. But I'm doing that more than anything just to test the blade itself to see if it gets damaged at all from doing that. And if we look closely at the blade, we can see that the finish is still perfectly intact. The blade is still perfectly sharp. The tip is still perfectly sharp after that. So yeah, this is holding up pretty nicely. The liner lock looks pretty heavy duty. So for an inexpensive knife, I actually like this thing. I like how well the spring assist works. So, and it just looks unique. I think that's really cool. So let's go ahead and put this away and move on to our next one. All right, so our next one is the Dark Combat Skinner knife. So, all right, let's take a look at this. Okay, so first off, we can see that it's got this really nice heavy duty case to it. And we can see that it's got a belt loop on there. So what I like about heavy duty nylon cases is if the blades are really sharp, it's not gonna pierce through it. And you can tell that this is a very heavy duty nylon case. So I like that a lot, very rigid, definitely a rigid case. And then the blade itself, let's look at this. So, okay, so there's some things I really like about this actually. So first off, let's see what kind of steel it is. It is a 440 stainless steel with black finish on it. So again, it's gonna be corrosion resistant. I see this as more of an outdoor survival type knife. So I would want something that's corrosion resistant for that aspect of it. The blade itself is definitely sharp, the tip's definitely sharp, and then we can see that where there would normally be a false edge up here, they actually have a serrated section up there, which I actually like a lot. So if we need to cut through rope or something, that would definitely come in handy. I like that, I think it's pretty cool. And then I think one of the things I like the most about this is just this thumb groove area up here, where my thumb just fits into it so nicely, gives me such good control. I love how my finger fits in here really well. My hand, it definitely goes over the edge, but it doesn't feel uncomfortable. Like I feel like I have really good control of it. Yeah, very good control and forward grip on this thing. I think that's really nice. Let's switch it around to reverse grip and see how that is. Okay, so I can throw my pinky into that little ring and that's still really comfortable. I still have really good control of this. It's probably not meant as a reverse grip knife. This is probably meant to be more of a forward grip knife, but it's nice knowing I have that as a possibility if that's kind of my style. So yeah, let's go ahead and actually test this out just a little bit. I think this is gonna be really good. So, all right, first let's start with a little bit of slicing. Yeah, so you can see that just cut that area right there really nicely. For stabbing, I'm gonna go into reverse grip. Yeah, that stabbed pretty well. I'm gonna do that again because I really want to test this tip out and see if the tip gets damaged. So yeah, that fit in there pretty nicely. And then as chopping, it's a little uncomfortable for chopping just because it's such a small knife. But I want to test the blade and just see how bad the finish gets dinged up. And okay, so if we look closely at the blade, we can see that it doesn't have any damage to the finish. The blade itself is still super sharp. The tip, yeah, didn't get damaged. It's actually still super sharp on there. I like the fact that this is full tang. I like the pack-a-wood handle. That pack-a-wood handle is fairly thick, so that actually gives me, you know, a nice grip on this knife. I actually have a really good grip on this knife. So, I mean, for an outdoor survival knife, I kind of like small knives like this. I think it's kind of cool. So I don't think there's anything else to really say about it other than dimensions. We've got a total length of approximately 6 1/8 inch. It's got a blade length. This area of the blade is approximately 2.5 inches. The serrated section is approximately 1 1/4 inches. And the knife weighs only 3.2 ounces. So that is super light. So I actually like that a lot. Let's go ahead and put that away and move on to our next knife. All right, so our next knife is the Vigilante knuckle knife. Okay, so look at that, that's interesting. So this is clearly kind of a mix of a knife and a knuckle duster at the same time. So knowing that, I think it's very important that I state that it's a necessity for you to check your local laws if you're even thinking about buying something like this. Because the laws differ depending on which city you're in, which state you're in, which municipality you're in, which country you're in. And then the laws also differ based on what we can ship there, what can be owned, and what can be carried. So it's very important you check your local laws before even thinking about getting something like this, especially because of that knuckle section. They're so strict on that kind of thing. So first off, it looks like we have a 3CR13 stainless steel blade. Not my favorite steel again, but it is corrosion resistant, so I like that about it. I actually like the grind on this thing. I think it looks pretty nice, and the tip is definitely sharp. The blade itself is sharp. It looks like this casing is made out of an aluminum, and then it's got some sort of gloss black coating on it. It's got an interesting coating. It feels different. It feels pretty heavy duty. I'm actually gonna try punching with this too, just to see how it holds up, how it hurts my hand, how it feels on me. But it's kind of cool. Like, I kind of like the fact that I've got a knife there. I'm curious how it's gonna work in reverse grip. Yeah, pretty good in reverse grip too. So honestly, if this finger hole right here was a little bit larger, they clearly made this to fit your pinky. So it fits nicely like that in forward grip, but they don't have any jimping up here. I wish there was some jimping up there to get more control. So that's something I don't like about this. If I were to buy this knife, I'd rather have it in reverse grip, but the problem is this hole's a little bit too small for reverse grip. I have huge hands. My hands fit, but it's not overly comfortable. But this is how I'd prefer to actually carry this knife. I think that'd be pretty cool. Punch with it, use it in reverse grip. I think that's neat. But if you got big hands, it's not gonna fit very nicely in that hole. So we can see also that it's got a really nice heavy duty belt clip on it. That's very heavy duty. The casing has a liner lock on there that's secure for sure on the blade. And then you can close it up fairly easily and then open it up. Let's see how well that spring assist works. Oh yeah, that's pretty nice. The spring assist is pretty good. Let's see, we've definitely got a drop point blade on there. And then the open length is approximately 8 inches. The closed length is approximately 4 3/4 inches. And the blade length is approximately 3 1/4 inches. And this weighs about 6.2 ounces. So that's a good weight. I generally like my knives to be around 5 or 6 ounces. So that feels pretty good. I actually like that a lot. We can also see that there's a false edge up here, which you could sharpen if you wanted to, make it more spear point or dagger style. I'd probably leave it alone. I think it looks pretty sleek as is. Let's test out how sharp this is. Yeah, so that actually cut really, really nicely. I mean, I barely touched that fabric and that just kind of cut right through like nothing. I'm gonna try, I'm gonna try throwing this into reverse grip because that feels the most comfortable for me, and just see how well this stabs. Oh yeah, look at that. Look how deep that is. That's super deep in there. Yeah, and then if we look at the blade, we can see that going in that deep, you can see where that went in. It went right to where my fingernail is. Yeah, that didn't mess up the finish. The finish is good. The tip is still super sharp, so that's nice. Let's see how well it chops. Chops okay. I don't have great control with it for chopping, but this is a very hard wood, just so you know. But as far as the edge goes, it held up really nicely, so edge retention is actually pretty good on that. Yeah, overall, pretty decent. Let's see if there's anything else I need to say about it. No, I think that's about it. So yeah, let's go ahead and put this away and move on to our next knife. All right, so our next knife is the black butterfly knife. Okay, so I'm actually glad we're showing this one off because this is about the closest thing I've ever seen to the type of butterfly knife I grew up with. Very basic, not a lot to it, but just a standard butterfly knife design. So we can see first off that it's got a standard latch to it. That is not a spring latch, just a nice standard latch. I actually prefer that. That's what I grew up with. Works pretty nicely. You can flip it, open it up in different ways very easily. We can also see that this has rivets in it instead of screws. And I like seeing these kind of bubbly, big rivets. Sometimes you see rivets that are just kind of thrown in there very quickly, hammered in a way to where they can just come out. So this one looks like it's really well put into place. So I actually like that a lot. Some people prefer screws over rivets. I totally understand that because with screws, you can tighten them up, you can loosen them just to change the play in your knife. Also, you can take out the screws, put in a trainer blade if you want. I personally prefer rivets because that's what I grew up with. In fact, this is almost identical to the knife I grew up with, which is pretty nice. The blade is a 1065 German surgical steel. And you can see too, this is a little bit better steel on this blade than like the 440 stainless steels we've been looking at, and then the 3CR13 stainless steels we've been looking at. You can just tell this is a little bit nicer. So I actually like that a lot. I like the blade style too. This is definitely a clip point blade. I really enjoy clip point blades. I think they're awesome. That tip is super sharp, so I like that a lot. It looks like the handle is made out of a steel, probably the same surgical steel that was used on the blade itself. One thing that's kind of interesting too is we've got this fuller on one side. So it's not a double-sided fuller, it's just a single-sided fuller. I don't think that's going to do much to take any weight off the blade. I think that that's more there for aesthetic purposes, but it looks pretty nice. The length unfolded is approximately 9¼ inches. The blade length is approximately 4 inches. The handle length is about 5 inches, and the folded length is approximately 5½ inches. And it weighs about 4.5 ounces. So yeah, pretty awesome little butterfly knife. So if you're looking for just a basic butterfly knife to have, I actually really like this one. I think it's cool. In fact, if you're new to butterfly knives and you're done with the trainer blades, this is a good one to start with. I like this, super inexpensive, just a nice, simple butterfly knife. So very cool. Let's go ahead and put that away and move on to our next knife. All right, so our next knife is the Stealth Tanto spring assisted knife. So, clearly by the name, this is going to be a Tanto blade, but I actually like the casing and handle on this. I think it looks pretty sleek, pretty nice. It looks like it is a 440 stainless steel blade, and the handle is a stainless steel as well. So yeah, let's look at that blade really quick. So that is a 440 stainless steel blade. I like the Tanto styling on that. The tip isn't as sharp as I'd like. The blade is very sharp. I'd probably, if I were to buy this thing, I'd probably sharpen up the tip a little bit, which, if you're a knife person, it's important to invest in a sharpener. I think that's a good idea. We definitely have a liner lock in there that looks pretty secure. We've got also a pocket clip on there. That's a heavy duty pocket clip too, so I actually like that a lot. Oh, we've got a lanyard hole on the end, so we could add some paracord on there for survival purposes. Or we could hook it to a keychain, or you could create a wrist strap with it, whatever you want to do with that lanyard hole. A lot of people really like those. The blade length is approximately 3½ inches, which is important that I'm stating blade length because different states have different laws about what size blade you can carry. So that's important that I state that. The folded length is approximately 4¾ inches. The unfolded length is approximately 8¼ inches, and the knife weighs about 5.8 ounces. So that feels like a nice heavy duty knife. I like the weight on this thing. Let's actually test it out. One of the things I like most about Tanto blades is they do a great job for stabbing and for slicing. So yeah, so we can see that just sliced pretty well. That's a karate gi there. Let's see how well it stabs. Yeah, that's decent. So as I said earlier, the tip needs to be sharpened. I would personally sharpen up the tip a little bit. That stabbed all right. It's not great, not a great tip for stabbing. Definitely sharpen it up. And then for slicing, yeah, that feels pretty comfortable, but more than anything, we're just testing to see the edge retention on this thing. So yeah, the edge retention is pretty good. Yeah, it might have lost a little bit of the sharpness on there. So yeah, this is a good example of what's a cool knife, but it's one that you're gonna wanna get a sharpener for if you do buy it. So yeah, pretty decent for a very inexpensive knife, pretty nice. So let's go ahead and put that away and move on to our next one. All right, so our next knife is the Stealth Tactical Neck Knife. Okay, so this is definitely a neck knife, which I like neck knives. I think they're pretty cool. I'd probably have to adjust this paracord if I was gonna put this on my head because that feels like it's gonna be a little bit tight. So the thing with neck knives is they either come with a breakaway chain or they come with paracord. And it's funny because people who generally buy them will switch them out for whatever they're most comfortable with. I typically just leave on whatever on them. Paracord is good because it's gonna be more secure on your neck. Breakaway chains are nice because if somebody were to try to actually choke you with your knife, the breakaway chain is just gonna break off. So, I mean, there's definitely good aspects to each of them, but let's look at the knife itself. So first off, we can see that it's got this really nice thermoplastic case on it that's holding the knife in very securely. And then we have this flint fire starter on here, which is kind of cool. I like the fact that we have a flint fire starter, and it's in a good location on this case too, so it's not gonna fall out on you. If we were using this for survival purposes, we just take that out, strike it with the blade, try to hit some tinder, and then get a fire started. So that could be pretty nice. The blade itself, the knife itself, I wish the handle was a little bit longer. It's a short handle, but to be completely fair and honest, when you're looking at neck knives, you want them to be as small as possible. So I honestly probably wouldn't want the handle to be any longer than that. Fairly comfortable considering the size of that. And then we definitely have the spear point blade, and it's sharp on the sides. The tip is super sharp tip. It looks like it's made from a 420 stainless steel, and it's got a black finish to it. Definitely not my favorite type of steel, but good in the fact that it is corrosion resistant. The handle looks like it's an injection molded ABS. Fairly comfortable. I mean, it's not, I guess it's one of the ABS handles that I wish it was a little bit more rubberized, but it's fairly comfortable. For a very, very inexpensive neck knife, I think that that's decent. It's not my favorite, but it's definitely decent for an inexpensive one. Let's test it out just a little bit. Okay, so for slicing, didn't do much there. I'm gonna hit it just a little bit harder. Yeah, see, it's not great for slicing, and I think that's the fact that it's a spear point, and this is clearly a dagger and not a slicing knife. Let's try actually stabbing with it. Oh yeah, so that stabs really nicely. I guess what I'm curious about is how well that tip held up, considering this is a 420 stainless steel. Yeah, oh yeah, the tip is still super sharp. So considering how dense this wood is, the fact that that tip didn't get damaged at all is actually nice. So I actually like that a lot. For chopping, this thing's not gonna be good at all. Yeah, that thing's gonna be garbage for chopping, but definitely a good stabbing knife. I could definitely see this as a pretty nice neck knife, because generally with a neck knife, you just want something quick that you can use in case there's ever an emergency where you have to use defensive measures. So as a neck knife, that's actually a pretty nice knife. So the blade length is approximately 3.5 inches. The total length is about 6 7/8 inches, and the knife weight is only 1.5 ounces. Super light, and that's also why I wasn't able to get any momentum on that to actually chop with it. This is such a light knife, which is good in the respect that it is a neck knife. Also, the way that this sheath is set up, we could actually hook this into your boot as well, so it could be a nice boot knife as well. So considering how light that is, I actually think that would make a really good boot knife. So yeah, let's go ahead and put that away and move on to our next one. All right, so our next knife is the blue steel stiletto. So look at that. I actually really like that metallic look. I think that's really cool. It's clearly anodized in a way that it gives it a nice shine and metallic look. I think that's really cool. Let's look at the blade itself. Oh, wow. So clearly a stiletto. I like the fact that that blade is really nice. It's got a false edge up top. I would probably sharpen that if it was me. I'd probably sharpen that and make it a really nice spear point dagger. So that looks pretty cool. I also really like this liner lock tab that it has. I like that style of liner lock tab. So it makes it super comfortable to just unlock it, close the blade, open that blade back up. Actually really, really comfortable. So this is a 3CR13 stainless steel blade, casing and handle. So this is all 3CR13 stainless steel. Again, not my favorite, but this is actually a fairly thick 3CR13 stainless steel. So I think that's gonna hold up really nicely for you. The liner lock feels very secure. The pocket clip is, so I can tell just by how stiff that pocket clip is that this is a pretty decent steel, so that actually looks pretty good. I love the anodization. I think that looks amazing on it. It looks like the length open is approximately 9 inches. The length closed is approximately 4 7/8 inches, and the blade length is approximately 4 inches, and the knife weighs about 5.1 ounces. So yeah, very, very cool. And then we also have this little lanyard hole on the bottom. So, I mean, that could definitely come in handy. We could actually make a necklace knife out of this or something, connect a wrist strap, paracord, whatever we want to do with it. Let's actually test it out though a little bit. So as far as sharpness goes, I'm just gonna hit this area right here because this hasn't been stabbed at all yet. Yeah, so that was decent. I mean, it cut it a little bit. It could be better, but this style of spear point blade is not going to be great for slicing. This is more of a stabbing knife. So let's actually try stabbing with it. I have really good control and comfort in reverse grip, so I like that. Oh yeah, that's nice. So yeah, that's typical stiletto, is it's more of a stabbing weapon. So that stabs really nicely. I'm curious about the tip. I want to see if we have any damage to the anodization. But no, it looks good. The tip's still very sharp. Oh yeah, the tip's still very sharp. The blade is still sharp. So it actually chops a little better than the last one, and that's because it is a little bit heavier knife. and I wanted to test that to see how that would affect the anodization. So we can see that there's a little bit of scuffing on the blade. It didn't dull though, but I'm not seeing any scuffing on the anodization at all. It actually looks really nice. I would probably sharpen up this false edge here, but again, if you're gonna sharpen up the false edge, you're gonna make that silver. You're gonna lose the anodization on there, so it's not gonna be so metallic. But overall, very cool little stiletto. I think it's neat. Let's go ahead and put that away and move on to our next knife. All right, so our next knife is the classic boot knife. So we've carried this knife for a long time, and it's actually one of our more popular knives. So I think it's good that we're showing it off. It's as basic as you can get of a boot knife. I actually like this boot clip in back. I think that's pretty nice. We could connect it to our boot. We could actually use that on our pocket. We could put that on the side of our belt. Would be pretty nice. The case, it's a faux leather sheath. I mean, that's pretty good faux leather. That actually feels like almost real leather, but you can tell. Like if you look closely, you can tell that that is imitation leather. That's not real leather, but looks pretty cool. And then let's look at the blade itself. Okay, so that's a pretty basic boot knife design. We can tell that it is full tang. Blade actually goes all the way through the handle, so I like that. It's very solid. It is fairly thick. That is a 440 stainless steel. Fairly thick. It's sharpened on both sides of the blade, so I like that about it. The tip is definitely sharp. It looks like if we look at the handle, we can see that it's got this kind of like pack of wood section on there that looks really nice. It gives it a really nice contrast. I like the black pack of wood. I've always liked black pack of wood. I think it's kind of cool because it looks like gray, has those lines in it. Pretty neat looking. I also like the fact that it's got this really thick steel pommel on there. Like that's a really thick steel pommel, so we could use that for defensive purposes as well if we didn't want to, use lethal force. So I actually like that a lot. The length is approximately 9.5 inches. The blade length is about 4 1/4 inches, and that's just to this area because this is dull up here. So the blade length to there is about 4 1/4 inches, and the weight is about 5.6 ounces. So it's a perfect weight on this knife. I actually like that a lot. It's definitely a spear point blade, and I think that's about it. So let's actually test it out just a little bit. So I don't think this blade's going to be very good for slicing. Let's try it though. I mean, it's decent. You can see right there, that's what it did, is those lines right there. The only reason it was able to do that is because it does have a nice weight to it, about 5.6 ounces, so that's pretty decent. It might be decent at chopping because of that weight. I mean, yeah, so that spear point blade is not gonna do great for that. This is definitely a stabbing knife, so let's actually test that out real quick. Yeah, that gave me really good control. Like I felt like I had good heft with that knife. I think that's pretty sweet. So yeah, pretty decent knife for a boot knife. I actually like that. And this is a very inexpensive boot knife too, kind of the most basic boot knife you could get. I actually think it's pretty cool. And that's all the knives I have for you today. So if you have any questions on any of these knives, definitely leave them in the comments below. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel. And check out KarateMart.com because we've got all sorts of really cool weapons on there right now. But until next week, we'll see you Weapons Wednesday.